Hey folks, today I'm in Hong Kong, and in this episode of TOGLIFE we're going to be talking through the news, what's new about the D850, Leica's up for sale, $1 million photography defamation case, and loads more. I'm also giving away this awesome 12mm f2.8 full frame lens from Venus Optics. Stay tuned. Okay folks, so let's jump into this. How is everyone? I'm currently in Hong Kong on an assignment. I'm just here for 5 days. Fortunately, today's the day to catch up with family and I've got some time to do filming, so I can film right here in my hotel room. Those moments when you realize your hotel room is nicer than your own home. I just filled up the little bookshelf here to make it a little bit visually interesting. Thank you to everyone who's been interacting and sending in questions for Ask Matt. And we had a huge number of entries for this week's photo of the week, where I'm giving away this guy, the 12mm lens from Venus Optics. This is their 0D, or it's a low distortion lens for a 12mm that's just insanely wide. Let me just give you a shot of how that looks on my current camera. Now note, that's a crop camera, whereas this is actually a full frame lens. But that's comparing about 25mm on my 24-70 to 12mm on this. So it's, a pretty huge difference. Cool thing about these lenses, they actually have a filter system that the company makes for them. So you can use slide-in filters, graduated neutral densities, all of that kind of thing. And we're going to be giving away this guy, well actually a brand new one of these, to whoever entered the best shot into this week's photo competition. The theme of that one was lines, being that this is a low distortion lens. Lines seem like a good fitting thing. And I'm also going to give away some runner-up prizes of my posing guide. Now, not suitable for work, warning, if you visit over mattgranger.com/posing. This is a guide to show you how to pose your model to get really flattering results, and with notes on what body types is good for, where to have your camera angle, the direction of light, all of that kind of thing. But this is actually an intimate nude portraiture guide, so the model is nude throughout. So just be aware of that when you go on over there. Okay, so before we jump in and judge our lines competition, I'm just going to announce next week's theme. I'll be back in New York City and I'm going to be filming with Steph, and we'll be releasing it the day before my New York workshop. I think we still have 1 or 2 spots available if anyone wants to join the New York workshop, mattgranger.com/NYC 2017. That's going to be a fun weekend with Steph and I. So the theme for next week is going to be action shots of whatever kind. Steph has been busy filming a web series for her channel, Art School Dropouts, and it's been all kinds of crazy fight scenes. I've seen the outtakes. So she chose the theme action shots, but you can interpret that more broadly than just fight scenes, obviously. So let's take a look at our lines shots. We had like 200 shots entered, so I haven't been able to narrow it down as far as I would quite like to. So I'm actually going to show 18 shots, and then it's still going to be final couple of winners. So this first one from Allah, I thought this is just great. So many of this kind of thing of like a tunnel of converging lines, but this one I thought worked really well, and it's so stark. It really jumped out at me. This one from Bernardo Delgado. Great framing of the character, nicely spotted with the pool of light and all the different lines all pointing in at our subject. Cool shot here of Freedom Tower in New York with a nice framing of the grate of whatever that is. It could be, some kind of sculpture on the side. So that one was from Dan Liederman. This one from David Krisk. Really cool shot. Looks like taken from the front of a train with a slight amount of motion blur. Going at speed, you don't have to blur too much. You can see the fact that the woman on the side isn't totally gone, that it wasn't a huge amount of blur, but enough to get some cool movement. This one from Dean. Not sure what this is. It's a memorial of some kind, and I think this works really nicely. It's geometric, and then having that subject walking through, they're just in the right spot, beautifully timed, and for me the processing works fantastically well as well. This shot from, it's kind of the opposite, from Gergo Sorba. Beautiful. I don't know where we are. There's a lot of places in the world this could be. Nice editing job. I don't think it's been too overdone on the colors and the paths all splitting up. You know, lines doesn't mean that it has to be, you know, arrow straight lines, even though this is a zero distortion lens or a low distortion lens. The theme is lines, and I always leave it open for interpretation. So for me, that works beautifully. This one from Kenneth Worth. Interesting shot. I haven't seen too many like this. I don't really know what is in the foreground that you're focused on. It's like cotton or like cheap rope or something that's made into a net in front of her. The only thing I'd say is maybe vary your shooting position a little bit so that it's not quite cutting off her eye as it is there. Now this one from Larry Cahill. I mean, epic night swirls. I'm not sure what these lines are across. There's an X formed above the house, but I mean the sky is breathtaking. The lines, you know, I mean, you can have a circular line, why not? This is a good demonstration though of an ultra wide angle lens and the distortion that it's introducing. If you haven't seen, I've done a video on rectilinear lenses before. I'll pop a card above so you can check that out. That distortion of the buildings all kind of falling in and falling backward is part of what this lens will help to correct. This shot from Marcelino Hanna. Again, we had a lot of these kind of shots, but I thought this one works really well. I know people have different opinions on homeless or beggars being subjects of shots, but I think this shot would work just as well with any figure there. But it does add an extra dimension, especially we're kind of transitioning from a gritty hallway out to what looks to be a beautiful European city. So I think that works really well. Marios Tomazu, cool shot. Unfortunately, it's quite low res, so it's hard to get a full sense of how much beautiful detail there must be in there. But the slow shutter giving the clouds a little bit of blur gives us all the attention on the building and its reflective surface. Nice one. This shot from Michael Lewington looks like a drone shot. We had a couple of drone shots in it. Thank you to my buddy Justin back in Australia for entering one as well. When I see the names, I tend to not include people I know because I don't want to be accused of bias, but it was a cool shot. But this one from Michael, yeah, I mean, the stark... See, I actually got, you know, I just judged the July competition that I'm running with MacFun. The theme was nature, and we had some epic entries, and I actually had some people getting their panties in a bunch about how could I include drone shots in it. It should be just real cameras. But I mean, a good shot is a good shot, and I don't look at the metadata, and when I'm judging that MacFun one, I don't even see names. I just see the entry number, and I just judge it on how is the final image. So not how they made it, what their equipment is, what their level of experience is, what their, you know, were they using a drone or a GoPro or their cell phone. It's just, how's the image look? And to me, this is quite a cool shot with such a bold line cutting through this beautiful landscape. Mike Wiz, now for something completely different. Unfortunately, this, now that I'm looking at it on full screen, it's, I don't know, it's not clear at all. But the lines are very striking nonetheless, and it's I love the really tight shot on the zebra, no dead space where there is an animal. This one from Mike Wood, that little kid is having a lot of fun. Nicely framed with his face between the spurts of water. And yeah, really great strong lines. The background is a little bit distracting, but the kid, I think you could bring it to a 4x5 and get rid of, you know, I don't think we need to have the whole bench there. Maybe a bit of dodge and burning to draw attention to the kid. This one from Moby. It's quite cool. These are hard, you know. If you want to get the perfect lineup, then you have to be dangling above the actual opening. But here, it kind of getting tighter and tighter as it goes down, even though it's not perfectly aligned. I think it works nicely, and the gold tones through it as well. This shot from Ortseam Renan, the little kid reading his, or I think his book there, in the streams of light. It's nice, and it's a really interesting use of lines for the shot, being lines of light rather than lines of, you know, something physical. Not that light isn't physical, but you know what I mean. Steven Dreisen. I really like this one. You just think, okay, so we've got this dirt road, then leading to this mountain pass, and then there's still the safety barricades everywhere. Kind of, I mean, that's just how things are, but in some parts of the world anyway. I think it works really nicely, and you've got the line of the road, the line of the markers, and then the line of the actual tire tracks, so nice one. Sukamal Pigu, great shot, the scaffolding on the window, the guy framed nicely in the scaffolding, great strong composition. This one from Will cool. The only thing, it does seem slightly off, and on this kind of a shot that could be so perfectly symmetrical, it really shows up. But I really love the overall effect of this. And that's our 18. So let me now quickly decide which ones I'm going to give the lens to and who are getting the runners-up prizes. Okay, here we go. So I have chosen out 3 runners-up and a winner. So the runners-up will each be getting a copy of my posing guide, mattgranger.com/posing. FYI, that has just been released and it's up for a little sale for a couple of days longer, but then it's still really cheap anyway. If you're seeing this down the track, check it out. First one, the last shot I showed, Will great shot. Really, really like it. Second one, Gergo Sorba. I just love it. The tones and everything through it are beautiful, and the lines branching out to the houses, great. Lucky last of the runners-up is David Krisk. Great shot. The lines bending through the train tunnel, I think, work really nicely. Well done. And our winner, who is going to get this fantastic Lauer lens from Venus Optics, the world's widest f2.8 full-frame lens, is Dean, with this shot of, I assume, some kind of a memorial. I think it's just beautifully put together, beautifully symmetrical, and the editing, I think, works a treat. So congratulations, Dean. We'll be in touch to get that prize out to you, and to our 3 runners-up, we'll be in touch. We'll actually just send the prize out to your email, so keep an eye out for that. Big thanks to Lauer for sending this one out. Check out their Facebook page. I'll pop a link in the caption below. They're regularly sharing photographers' work and featuring it, so get involved. You might see your own work get featured. And they have a couple of really cool things coming soon that I can't share with you yet, but if you're following on the Facebook page, you'll hear about them nice and soon. So, reminder, next week our theme is action shots. And if you want to get involved with that, submitting your business or getting involved with TOGLIFE generally, go to mattgranger.com/TOGLIFE and you can see all of the details there and how to get involved. So now let's talk about some news. So I mentioned earlier, Steph and I are doing a workshop the 12th and 13th of August in New York. Check that out. It's going to be really fun. It's kind of funny that having moved to the States, I'm actually so much busier that I'm doing less workshops. So the only workshops I have planned for this year at the moment, New York, mid-August, and then September, early September, God can I speak, in LA. So that's LOS 2017 if you want to get involved with that one. So Steph and I are going to be flying over to LA and doing the same workshop that we do in New York. Local models, great location, catered, a really fun weekend. So I hope some of you will join us. So news. Leica apparently has a 45% stake up for sale. And apparently Zeiss is sniffing around. It's funny to think companies like that do get bought and sold. Actually, a guest on one of my tours kind of co-owned an investment bank who back in the day bought Leica and then, built it up and then sold it on again. And the current owner of Leica bought 95% of it some time ago, recently sold off 40% or so, and is now looking to sell another 45%. Rumor is Zeiss are one of the people sniffing around, but that they're only interested if they can have a majority share. So, that makes sense, right? So, interesting. Next one, and this is no surprise, I think, to most people. Sony is absolutely killing it with their sensor production. Have to give props where they're due. Just in terms of a turnaround in the overall business, you think about how huge a company like Sony is. It wasn't that long ago that they were making big losses. They got a new CEO in, they fragmented up the business, they focused in on a few core parts of their business, one being sensor technology, and it's just going great. It's saying, so here you go, 5 years ago they were seeing losses of 2.9 billion, and now we're talking, they did a first quarter profit of 1.5 billion this year. Crazy, what a turnaround. So yeah, they have 50% of the world market of sensors, and that's actually a nice tie into the next topic that I'm going to talk about. So first of all, well done, that's great. They are making some great sensors, medium format, DSLR, and everything else. Now, the topic that, you would know that I generally don't talk too much about equipment rumors, but this is no rumor. It's been announced the D850 is coming, but still the exact specs are up in the air. So it's, there's people talking that this is going to be a mini D5. It's an interesting thing when people want to compare them like that. And, there is certain overlaps in the family as it is. But the D500 is also a mini D5, right? High frames per second, fantastic autofocus system. It's got the dual cards, XQD and SD is what I'm actually filming on right now. Here is the D5. There you go. But it's interesting. I think to say that it's going to be a mini D5 is kind of misleading because it's going to be high res and the D5 isn't. So my guess on the specs, having read what's out there and, just looking at what they've done in previous generations of releases, I could be off, but, after you pay attention to these things over 10 product cycles, you kind of start to see patterns. So I'd say it's going to be 8 to 10 frames per second on full res, not crop. That I think it's going to be a 46 megapixel sensor, not the 42.4 megapixel sensor that's in the A7R Mark II. A couple of reasons why I think that. First of all, that's a 2-year-old sensor now, just over 2 years. The A7R2's been, A7R2, yes, has been on the market. Now, looking at what they did with the D800, D810, they got the sensor, optimized it, used it in their cameras for 6 months or a year. Then the A7R came out and Sony used it. Then the 42.4 has been out for quite a while. Nikon D810 hasn't been updated in that time. My guess is it's going to be a brand new sensor that again will go into the D850 and remain exclusive in there for some time, and then it will filter down into the A7R Mark III. Now, so I noted this a while ago, years and years and years ago, that the D810 versus a D4, even though the D4 is super fast, actually the data requirements of the D810 are potentially higher at 36 megapixel at its maximum frames per second. You're actually writing more data per second than you were with the D4, and that puts an incredible strain on the whole pathway, not just the cards, the buffer and all of the circuitry, right? So I'm thinking 46 megapixel, 8 to 10 frames per second, how is that going to be possible? But look at the A99 Mark II. That's 12 frames a second with a 42.4 megapixel sensor. So it's certainly there, we have the technology now, and I would say that we're going to be having XQD for sure, and that the second card, the SD, will be the UHS-2. Really important. Say on the Sony A9, they've got one UHS-2 and one that's only version 1, much slower. So they're going to need the fastest on both of those. I reckon it might have full UHD 4K rather than the kind of cropped, the narrower 4K. We already know it's going to have 8K time-lapse. I would say no hybrid viewfinder. That was just a lot of nonsense talking. A tilty screen like the D500, which I'm so on. No flash, which I'm disappointed on because I actually find a built-in flash on the D810 helpful. I hope it's going to have Wi-Fi, some people suggesting it will, and I hope that the new version of SnapBridge that apparently it's coming with will actually be functional, because I don't find it a useful software at all at the moment. So, time will tell. You probably just heard I just got a message. I thought I had silence that, sorry. Okay, this was an interesting one. You've probably seen this already. Photographer has just been awarded just over $1 million, including costs, from a couple who defamed her for her photography services about... Anyway, there's a long story. You can check it out in a link. But basically, this couple went off and attacked her on social media and made a pointed campaign of doing so. And it defamed her. So if you can show that somebody was wrongly accusing you of things and it caused actual damage to your brand, reputation, earning potential, then they're liable to be sued, to have to pay for that. And she was a very successful photographer. She said she was earning high six-figure income from her photography, and it went to nothing overnight after this couple's unfair campaign against her. So $1 million sounds like a huge payout, but if she was earning, it says high six figures, so that could be it's not going to be 100,000, we're talking hundreds of thousands. So $1 million could potentially just be a couple of years of income, and her business is now destroyed. Maybe in a couple of years when I don't know, you search something online, and if something blew up virally, then in 5 years' time, if you search this lady's name, you'll probably still find this campaign that these people ran. I'm glad to see it, and I hope it, gets some other people to start to pull their head in about going off on rampages against people just to try and get attention and cultivate a nasty following. The famous Einstein picture with his tongue out, a signed copy of that has just sold for 125 grand at auction. So there you go. If you get an iconic shot or something like that of a celeb, try and get them to sign it as well. Here's one that, I don't know, this is going to split the audience. An Australian artist, there's always this thing about, is photography an art form? Some say yes, some say no, some definitely in one case or the other, camp or the other. Entered a portrait photography contest and won the first prize with a $20,000 prize, and it was a blank frame that her grandmother had scribbled pen and texter and marker on and smeared saliva on, and it won first place in a portrait competition. So I can see that's going to really infuriate a lot of photographers out there. One of the judges said, Varga's photo explored what it means today to make a photograph of someone else, even if in the end it doesn't reveal what they look like. The judge further justified his decision by pointing out that photography has never been just about appearance. It's also been part of the way that we experience things like memory and relationships. I'm all for a unique and creative approach, but I do wonder exactly what the terms of the competition were. I think there's people who enter my competitions and know my judging style, my taste, and that kind of thing, and tailor the shots they enter to that and probably do better because of it. That's like anything, whether you're a university student or a lawyer, you learn the game, you work out the rules, you see who the players are, and you play it smart. That'll do us for the news today. So let's jump in and take a look at some of your Ask Matt questions. Thank you to those who submitted them. Over on Facebook and Instagram, I throw out a graphic asking for people to submit their questions, and then I select some out to discuss with you guys now. So, Nick Mannery, why do people categorize photographers like sports or porn stars, indicating professional or amateur? I realize this is a long-winded argument, but calling someone an amateur is telling them that they are a novice or a beginner-level photographer. There's a lot of unusual things in that. I don't know that I've heard people talk about amateur or professional porn stars, and I don't know that that's a long-winded argument either. But personally, I think this must be a little bugbear of yours personally, and maybe it's tied to some insecurity, because amateur means you're doing something not for pay. Professional means you're doing it for pay. That's the difference. It's not about skill level. Tom Pajak, have you ever displayed a photo that was unedited? Is there such a camera that can do a perfectly balanced photo that you leave alone? Sure, a lot of what I share online and in videos is unretouched. And it's not really about the camera, it's about you working out what you want. So if I'm shooting a street shot and I'm shooting RAW on one card and I'm shooting JPEG to the other, I'll tweak the JPEG settings to, with this, so I might put the contrast up a little bit or, whatever to get the kind of results that I want, so it's as close as ready to share as possible, especially on this trip. I always forget something, but on this trip I left XQD card reader at home and I went out and bought this one, overpriced, and because it's the traditional USB type, I have to go via my USB-C adapter to my MacBook Pro, and for some reason it's not working. So I need to take this back to the shop and see if the card reader is damaged, or if for some reason via the adapter it just doesn't want to work, which means right now my dual XQD D5, I can't read either of the cards to verify stuff, and the D500 I can only check the SD card, so it's a bit annoying. Tony Goins, how are you liking the 18-400? You guys are nice and you have a great attention to detail. I shared a shot from my dinner last night of the D500, and this was attached, and half the comments were talking about the lens. So this actually isn't out yet, but I have it here and I'm doing an assignment with it. 18-400 on a crop, so 27-600 effective focal length. It's pretty crazy. It's a 3.5 to 6.3 aperture, VC. You can see it extends a long way. So far, well, I haven't been able to verify the files yet, but I tell you what, it's over 90 degrees Fahrenheit, 30 something degrees Celsius, 95% humidity. I'm carrying around a backpack. I really am appreciating having the D500 and a single lens kit to shoot with rather than lugging around a whole bunch of stuff. And I mean, you can do the maths, 18-400, it's over 20 times zoom, but it's just crazy. I just can't help it. I keep finding myself like framing up a shot and like saying, so the wide shot is this, and zoomed in I get this little detail. Here's the shot, here's a tiny little bird. Here's the shot, here's a person taking a selfie on the beach. And it just blows my mind every time how far it goes in. So far so good. Fractions of time. Does your cat play fetch? Actually, yes, she is a little bit of a dog in that way. She's not too good at bringing it back, but if we as soon as she hears paper crumpling, she'll run over and be looking for it. And if you throw it, she'll run around and kick it like a soccer player and sometimes bring it back. Thomas Perez. I have the experience that a lot of professional studio photographers lose their passion and simply do the same thing every day without having a creative process or trying something new. Why do you think that's so? It's kind of sad to lose passion for the one thing you do for a living. It's because photography is not this rare and precious thing. It's like any job. The reality is that once you go from just being an amateur, being able to shoot without financial consideration of having to satisfy a client, you're not doing it for pay, and then you go to doing it for pay, what the client wants is more important than what you want. So if they want you to shoot 10,000 shots of crappy products and they're going to pay your rent for the next 2 months, then you do it. If they get you to do something but it needs to be in this style, not your style, and it's not going to have your name attached to it anyway because it's going into a catalog or something, you either choose to take the job if you need the income and do it anyway, or you say, no, I'm not going to because that's not my style, so I'm going to skip the job. But the commercial reality of business is you often need to take the job. So, you don't have autonomy to just shoot whatever you want all the time. It's the same as any professional endeavor. So hopefully if people are, creative and wanting to stay fresh, you go out, you collaborate with people, you try new things, you have your own personal projects on the side. So often photographers blow up and get recognized or get famous, for want of a better word, because of their personal projects, for the thing that they were really passionate about and they went out and did on spec, not for a commercial reason. That's what actually gets them their name. Nikon pixels. What's the best way to capture a solar eclipse? I'll card above. A year or two ago, I was visiting a friend of mine in Beijing who is a semi-professional eclipse chaser. Semi-professional, meaning he does do it partly for pay, but he has another job as well. And he gave us his tips on how to shoot it, so I'll let it come from an expert. And XAVZ Photos, what's your take on Hasselblad? I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that. I have been as vocal as anyone, I guess, over the time. I have to say, of all the brands out there, the legacy of Hasselblad is one that I really have respect for. And I did find it disappointing, some of the products they brought out over the last 5 or 10 years that to me seemed chintzy and kind of devalued that legacy. But to be honest, to me it seems like they're really back on track. I haven't used it much yet, but the X1D looks killer. The H6D that I took to Peru just 2 weeks ago, absolutely astonishing. I love I've got a 503 CW, I've used their digital back on that. Generally speaking, with a few little missteps of, rebadged Sony cameras with hugely inflated prices, I think it's a legendary brand. I have a lot of respect for them. So that is our Ask Matt for the week. Make sure you're following over on social media so you can get involved. Lucky last is our TOG of the week. Now, I got feedback in the last show that the segment just kind of felt tacked on, and fair play. I do this segment, TOG of the week, because I want to feature the work of somebody who's following along and getting involved, and to, try and get them a little bit of attention for the great work that they're doing. And it's probably true, being that this is the last segment in the show, that I have sometimes rushed it because I know the show's been running long. So I apologize for that. And this week I've chosen out Edgar Kalnins from Riga in Latvia, a country that I'm really keen to go to. He has actually shared his Instagram page. If you want to share your business, it doesn't matter if you're amateur, semi-professional, full-time professional, whether you've got a Instagram page, a Flickr page, or a full website. It's about sharing the kind of work that you're doing and a little bit about yourself. So our friend Edgar's is shooting all kinds of different stuff, actually. He's experimenting and trying out all different things, but he's mainly shooting portraits, urban and nature, as well as some street photography. And taking a look through his portfolio on Instagram, there's a visual style coming out here for sure. A lot of the shots here, so you've got some green smoke, blue smoke, yellow, red smoke. Overall, I think it's all looking quite nice. I guess the thing you need to think about is, when you're putting together a portfolio like that, is it just to display, here's a shot, here's a shot, here's a shot, or is it trying to develop some kind of a social media following or a brand presence? And if it is to try and get work to get people to hire you, then having a consistent kind of a style or something that really clearly shows what you're good at and what you want to do more of is important. For me, I would say your portraits are the strongest of the ones you've taken here. You've got a good variety of different atmosphere to them, direct to camera, some that look a little bit desaturated, but then still have nice detail through the face, especially the woman in the woods and the guy in the suit. So some really nice work there. Thank you for submitting Edgar's, and if you want to get involved, jump over to mattgranger.com/TOGLIFE and you can enter your business there as well. I think that's going to be it for this week. It's the huge rain and thunderstorm that was here this morning has died down. So it's time for me to, to be realistic, for me to stop recording, edit this video, put in all the images, get it uploaded, go meet some people for a lunch meeting, then come back, add all the cards and everything. And then I'm actually heading out to Mongkok tonight to do a little bit of shooting with the 18-400 lens. So that's going to be my day. I've got another 2.5 days after that here in Hong Kong. Then I'm back to New York. We'll be filming with Steph on Wednesday and Friday of next week, and then we've got our workshop on the 12th and 13th of August. So I know some of you are coming along, and I hope a few more will jump on board and join us for that one. Thanks, guys. I'll see you back in New York soon.